Thank you for listening to this PodcastOne production. Available on Apple Podcasts and PodcastOne.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Now, here's Steve Austin.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Steve Austin Show. I am coming to you from the Silver State. That's right. My last day out here at the Broken Skull Ranch 2.0 in Nevada. Getting ready to load up the Yukon XL and head back to the mean streets of Los Angeles. Man, once we get to the mean streets of Los Angeles, we're going to be there for a couple of days. Load up, fly down to San Antonio, Texas, rent us an RV, and drive the dogs down to see my family down there in Edna, Texas. Go down there and hang out with my buddy that I bought my 74 Z28 and do some podcasts, shoot the breeze, and visit and celebrate Christmas. I cannot believe that Christmas is already upon us. But I digress. Let me talk about one more thing. If you downloaded this show on Tuesday, on Wednesday, yours truly, Steve Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Texas Rattlesnake, whoever you call me, whatever I am, Steve Austin turns 55 years old on December 18th. It's my birthday. My wife's birthday is the day after mine on December 19th. And then we celebrate our anniversary on December 21st. And then we have Christmas. We get it all covered in just a couple of days. God damn. Double nickel, 55. I'm happy as fuck to be 55 years old. Son of a bitch, I didn't think I was going to make it this long. Now that I lasted this long, hopefully I can get me another 20, 30 years out of it. We'll see what happens. 55 years old, still running strong. Out there blazing the trails of my side-by-sides and my four-wheelers and my pickup trucks, hunting, fishing, hanging out with my wife, my dogs. Happy as a damn lark. Things have been good. I am thankful to have made it this long and look forward to many more. To any of you out there who have sent me emails or tweets or messages on Instagram, thank you very, very much. It's been a blast being Stone Cold Steve Austin all these years. It's been a blast hosting my show on the USA Network. I thank you so much for your support on the Broken Skull Sessions on the WWE Network, supporting Broken Skull IPA. That beer is going to be probably across 6 or 8 more states in 2020. I'm so proud of that beer and everybody at El Segundo Brewing Company. I'm so happy to still be involved and to continue my relationship with Kawasaki Motorsports. It's been a great partnership, and I just love their product, and I love representing that brand because I've been using that brand for most of my life, and I'm happy to be with Cold Steel Knives as well, and doing all the other things I'm involved in. But anyway, thank you to everybody who sent a tweet, Instagram message, or an email. I'm happy to be 55, and I look forward to many, many more. Hey, man, today's podcast is a cool one. I was going to talk about the TLC pay-per-view, but I didn't get a chance to watch all of it, and football was going on. I had a million things going on down here in Nevada. Just got off a hell of a damn hunt with my brother Mitch over there in Nevada Hunting Services. And I called up my old buddy, Army Ranger Jim Erwin, the Kraken. Come over here and shoot the breeze with me and talk a little bit about life and the things that we're both interested in. So hopefully you enjoy today's podcast. I certainly enjoyed talking with Jim Erwin, and he's a class act and a badass dude. And if the crap ever goes down, Jim is a guy you want on your side. And that's the bottom line. Here's the podcast. Enjoy it. Next time I catch you, I guess I'll be down there in Texas shooting the breeze and looking forward to podcasting more and more stuff in 2020 here at PodcastOne. Dig this podcast, and I'll catch you down the road. For all of you out there looking for ways to save some cash this holiday season, why not look at your car insurance? With Geico, it will take you only 15 minutes to save 15% or more on car insurance. Geico has been offering great rates and great service for over 75 years. And anytime you need help, you can speak to one of their trained specialists 24/7. Go to geico.com and start saving cash. Extra money in your pocket? It may just be the most rewarding thing you do today.
The Steve Austin Show. The Steve Austin Show.
All right, fired up. Roll the sound out here. Broken Skull Ranch 2.0 in Silver State out here in God's country, Nevada. Shit, I've been out there moving a couple of bales of hay with my buddy Jim the Kraken Erwin, former Army Ranger. Or is it like the Marines? Once you're an Army Ranger, always an Army Ranger. How's that work?
Yeah, pretty much. Once you're a Ranger, always a Ranger. You run into guys that they see a sticker on your car or something like that, and it's just like they want to know like what years you're there, what battalion. So yeah, same thing. Just cooler than the Marines, basically.
I asked you this question before, but why did you decide Army versus Marine, Air Force, or Navy?
That's a funny story. I'll keep it short, though. So growing up in this area, like I told you, I grew up just a couple hours south of here, and the closest Marine Corps recruiter was here in Carson City, just north of where we're hanging out today. And I set a schedule, like recruiter, come down and do an appointment with me, do my interview. I guess the interview to get in the damn military. And dude stood me up. I'm like, well, if they're already screwing me, what happens when I join, right? So I'm like, screw that. And lo and behold, about 2 weeks later, I meet this Vietnam vet who was a Ranger in Vietnam. And he started telling me a couple stories. And I'm just like, dude, that is me. That is like exactly my cup of tea and what I want to do. So reset my sights, and off I went in the Army Ranger direction.
Hey, man, so what's the difference between being an Army Ranger and like a Navy SEAL, just as far as qualifications? I understand, or I guess are they dealing with water? Yeah,
the SEAL teams, we actually say they're basically like our sisters, but they do the water-based operations, very similar, right? So you can do, like for me in the Ranger training, you go through, when I went through what they called the Ranger Indoctrination Program, or RIP. It's now called RASP, I think, Ranger Assessment Selection. It's a bit longer. So you don't just get your ass smoked and learn Ranger history. You actually learn how to shoot and do other things besides just suck it up and drive on. Same thing with BUDS, right? So you can do that at like 19 years old, 18, 19 years old. You go through
BUDS
your selection.
Basic underwater demolition.
Correct. BUDS is underwater demolition school for your SEAL team guys, and they do their Hell Week, and they smoke you, and they want to see what kind of mental capacity you have and willpower.
Hell Week?
Yeah, it was about 3 weeks.
Now, F it. We're going 3 weeks of hell.
But, in all due respect, they're burning like 20-plus hour days for a week, and we weren't doing that. We were just getting, messed with for 3 weeks straight. Like I said, learning Ranger history and just hump, and more hump. And what I mean by that is you put the backpack on, what we call a rucksack, and you just cranked out miles and, see if you quit. And, you get back, and they'd ask you a question. Of course, it'd never be the right answer, and you start pushing. So a similar concept of just mental fortitude and toughness, right? So they're a water-based unit, but the same tier levels. So they're the same type of asset, but based on the Navy side instead of the Army side. So good dudes. I like to mess with them. I'm glad they do it, because I could think of nothing worse than like, hey, I want you to go hump up this mountain, but before you do it, I'm going to throw water all over you and throw some sand in your crotch. Now go. Yeah. Go ahead, Navy. That's all you, bro.
As far as qualifications, are they jumping out of stuff? Are they jumping out of helicopters, airplanes, stuff like that?
They are.
How many jumps you got in you?
Shoot, I'd say between 300 and 500, if I had to guess. Right in there.
Helicopters and airplanes?
A little mix, if you will.
Dude, how is that? Because, my wife bought me a Groupon to go, take a ride, because I want to learn how to fly an airplane.
Yeah,
but I figured, man, I'm so damn stupid out here on the ground. Last thing I need to do is get turned around up in the air and get lost, because you ain't going to get stuck up there. You're going to run out of gas.
You're going to come down.
And so anyway, I never took that flight. And then one of my buddies went and jumped out of they did a tandem jump, had someone on the back. And I said, man, how was it? He goes, oh, it was thrilling. It was such an adrenaline rush. And I like, man, the last thing I'm going to do is just jump out of a perfectly good airplane with a pillow on my back.
You're right.
When we was growing up in South Texas, me and my brothers used to get pillow sacks. It goes over a pillow, and we jump off the roof of the house. It's probably 12-foot drop. Yeah, and God dang, them things didn't slow us down.
Not a bit.
So when you magnify it, you go up a couple 10,000, 20,000, whatever the jumping distance is. I guarantee, Jim, you're a big bad son of a gun, and I know you had a penchant for you was the fighter there back here on your base. But I guarantee you and 10 of your best buddies couldn't get me out of that goddamn airplane.
Oh, come on. I bet we could. I bet we could.
Did you dig it? Are you a thrill seeker or what?
Growing up, I seeked adventure. I think I did. It wasn't one of those things that it had to be death defying.
Right.
But I definitely was I guess you could say, addicted to adrenaline, whether it was playing football, baseball, competition, growing up skiing. I would like the steepest stuff, and hopefully I could find a jump down on the way, something we could just launch off. But yeah, I like the adrenaline, but I'm also one of those guys I don't want to look back in life and be like, you know what, man, I wish I would have tried that, right? I've done the scuba diving thing, not my jam. I have confirmed that I'm not a water guy. I grew up in the mountains, man.
Yeah,
I'm a mountain dude. Put me in the hills, put me in the mountains, top of a peak, snow, I'm good. But I'm just not a huge fan of water. I do it, and I had to do it in the military because that was part of my selection process. You have to be able to do that stuff. And I've trained in the Arctic. I've trained in the mountains and deserts, the oceans, and oceans are still my least favorite. Like, you're in the food chain, man. Like, you are in the food chain. And one of the things I appreciate about skydiving is unless pterodactyls come back, you're never in the food chain. But
I'm always one of those guys. If I got some kind of illness or if I'm hurting or whatever, I'll get on the damn computer and I'll go worst case scenario.
Right.
So, same thing with the damn jump out of an airplane. I'm thinking worst case scenario, I'm going to be the guy that gets the pack that the dude didn't pack the parachute right. And then...
Yeah, I'm just opposite, man. I do not think about worst case scenario. I plan for it, but I don't dwell on it. And that was a part of, being in the military and the special operations communities. You plan for it, but you plan to be able to be prepared for that situation and come out ahead.
Okay, tell me about that, because I talked to a couple of Marines and guys that were SEALs, and I read a few books. And those guys, like, when they're talking about essential gear, they'll always say, hey, 4 is 2, 2 is 1, and 1 can be none. Meaning if something malfunctions or you lose it, you no longer have it.
Right.
So you need to make sure you have what you need and maybe one more.
And it's running correctly.
So, okay, you jump out of a airplane, parachute, ripcord don't work. What are you doing?
You're going for your reserve, which is damn near the same size as the one you just had. So we always have a backup on that. So if you're conscious, and you're still breathing, you're working through those emergency procedures to get that extra extra parachute off your back. Meaning deploy it, right? You want to get it out that rig quick, so that you get some canopy above you and finish your mission. I've been close. I've been right there at the moment of truth to pull it, and for some reason, the way I brought my head down to look at what to pull next, cleared enough air off my back that it opened up my chute correctly. So fortunate on that. I've had some pretty shitty landings coming in hot.
What's the worst thing you ever landed on?
A Humvee. Bigger than shit, man. Middle of the night, 2 a.m. in the morning. So it's a funny story if we got time.
Yeah, we got time.
So here I am. I'm 11 plus years in. I've got maybe 3 weeks left in the military, and I'm still out skydiving and rucking and running with my boys. I should have been an admin, just trying to get out of the military, what they call ETS, right? And going to my medical stuff and basically shamming, just getting over it. 3 weeks out, I'm still jumping, running, gunning, like a dumbass. I shouldn't have been doing that. And I was pretty good, Halo jump master, how to low opening. So free fall, military free fall was my jam the last 2 years in the military. And I ran a free fall platoon with another fellow.
Hold on, what would you explain free fall?
Free fall skydiving, military skydiving. So you have static line, right? Which is your basic airborne stuff. You're connected to the plane. Yeah. You jump out, it pulls it for you. And usually 1,500 feet and under, average between 8 and 1,200, depending on what you're doing. So I'm that guy, though, right? Like, I got the absolute minimum number of static line jumps because those sucked. They hurt when you hit with a bunch of shit on you and a rucksack and an M60 machine gun or a sniper rifle. And you hit like a bag of ass and roll over, cry about it for a minute, and get up and go do your mission. So I'm like, I want to the fast train to skydiving, right? Because I can control my landings. For the most part, unless you just totally mess it up, which I've done. So I got into the skydiving side, which is kind of hard to get into, right? It's one of those coveted positions, but as a ranger, sniper, Delta Force guy, once upon a time as well, you're going to those schools because you need to be able to have that capability for means of insertion, right? You can't be lacking. Short, they did offer me scuba school. I'm like, pass, hard pass. Keep me in the truck. I'll do the mobility or skydive in. So my worst jump was about 3 weeks out from getting out of the military, and we're doing like a 2:30 in the morning jump, and we're opening about 15,000 feet. We're up there, and it's dark as dark, right? You're jumping in a black burlap sack. It's dark out. And we put these celluloid sticks, or chem lights as we call them, on each other. One color's for the back, one color's for the front. So if you see that color, you know if you're looking at the top or bottom of somebody. And we put what we call a wind arrow on the ground. So as a jump master, I'm looking for that wind arrow and a certain offset. So when we jump, I'm doing the math for all the winds and everything and how much we're going to move in the air to get to that spot. Well, somewhere from the time we exit the aircraft 15 seconds before I hit, it was somebody decided to park a Humvee right next to the wind arrow. And on that Humvee, they had this big antenna, and they taped a damn chem light to the top of the antenna. Well, it looked like the tip of the arrow to me from altitude in pitch black. I'm just focused on that. So about 25, 30 feet up, I start to see like the silhouette of the damn Humvee, and I'm just like, whoa, I flare as hard as I can. I throw my legs to the side, and the top 2 inches of that hood, I thought tore my ass off because I hit like sideways. Yeah. My ass hit that thing, flipped me over the hood. Well, you know, they got the metal brush guards on the front too, right?
Oh, yeah.
My shins both hit that because I'm like sideways. Like, you know, I was inverted. No, I was sideways trying to get up over the hood. My ass cheeks hit the freaking top of the hood. Shins hit that, flip me over the hood. I jump up screaming like, who the fuck, like, you know, beep, beep, you know, who's effing Humvee is this? And then this pain started shooting through my butt. Like grabbed my ass walking around. I thought I ripped my ass cheeks off. They were good. About 30 seconds later, my shins kicked in. And I'm just like, the point almost throwing up, right? That nauseous feeling. And that's the only time I looked at my buddy. I'm like, Larry, I think I need to go to the hospital. Like, I think I broke my shins. Still packed up all my gear, cussing whoever's Humvee it was. Wasn't even our units. I have no idea to this day whose freaking Humvee it was.
Did you break both your shins?
Nope. Blown away. So I get in there, all feeling sorry for myself. They take x-rays, and Lee's like, I don't know how, but you're good. I was black and blue down both shins, limp for like 3 days, but didn't break them.
When's the last time you jumped out of something?
I think about 2 years after. So 2000, I got on 2000. I think about 2002 was the last time I actually did a jump.
You don't miss it, do you? I mean, you ain't got no
it was fun.
Man, one for shits and giggles.
If you win, I'd go with you just for fun. Come on, I dare you. I dare you.
You can double dog dare me. I ain't going. I'll tell you right now.
That's a hold my beer story, Steve. It's
I was going to ask you about, you learned shooting there, right?
Yes.
You grew up hunting, but how intensive was the sniper training? Because I'm going to bust into some shooting because you still teach all that. I just got finished doing some on a hunt, and also want to talk navigation. So how intensive was the shooting program? Because I know you grew up hunting and fishing over right down the road.
Yeah, just down the road. Yeah.
The king of Levining.
Yeah.
Jim Erwin. And so...
the myth. Not a legend, but the myth.
Were you sitting there just running up and down the mountains? Were you hunting way back in the day?
So I was, but I would say it was, for lack of a better term, illegally. And I'll caveat that and saying illegally. So growing up, my dad was basically a hippie, you know, building houses, construction stuff, you know, peace, love, and Haagen-Dazs type of stuff. Had a peace sign like tattoo on his freaking shoulder. That kind of guy, right? Long hair. Stepmom was a wildlife biologist. So
there you go.
Hunting in my family was not really like a thing. Like they weren't cool with it. So I'd always like borrow a buddy's gun. I didn't have like a rifle until I was like 16. And so I'd borrow buddies and we'd go out and shoot rabbits and stuff like that, you know, but actual like hunting big game. No way. They weren't having it, man. They frowned upon it. So I say illegally is like I'd sneak out to go do it with my buddies and we'd, you know, go bunny busting, whatever you want to call it, shooting jackrabbits and coyotes and stuff. But I kind of had a knack for it. And like I told you in the past, my whole goal going into the military was to become a ranger, but be a sniper in the Rangers. I want to be a sniper. I'd read all the books and, you know, talk stories with guys that had done some sniping in the day. And I was just like, that's just what I want to do. One or two dudes like owning a battle space is putting fear in people. And it comes, it's a challenge. It comes at a cost of learning all that, but then realizing too, you're out there by yourself, man. Like you and one other dude. It'd be me and you out in the bushes making it happen. And if we get busted, that's pretty much a death sentence. So, you know, you better be sneaking. You better be good. The farther you can shoot, the more time you got to get your ass out of there. The training going in basic Army infantry stuff, it's a joke. You know, let's be honest. It's basic rifle marksmanship. Point it that direction. Don't shoot yourself. Right? Unload it. Don't point it at anybody. And
Lots
then
of common sense stuff.
Yes,
Some
correct.
people don't have common sense.
Understood. And I make a living helping people understand that, which is great. But then you get into the Ranger Regiment and you start really starting to dial in shooting, moving, communicating, right? And then understanding how you can do it fast and efficient and safely in and around people. And I became a sniper as a secondary position. I was a saw gunner on the team, squad automatic weapon, shoots a lot of bullets fast. It's heavy. I'm big. Made sense, right? Big boy, carry big thing. Yeah. So you get an understanding and a sense of how that all works and then working as a team and being able to shoot, move, and communicate and hit the bad things and keep the good guys safe and not have any fraternization, hitting your own fellas and doing it at night. then we just spend, once I got into the sniper section, that we really started to, I'd say, craft our skills, right? And I mean, days, like, well, it turned into years, but we'd spend days at the range at known distance. Like I talked to you before, like there was no range finders and this and that. And I probably had a sniper rifle that 4 dudes before me had. I didn't understand it, having a barrel shot out. It was a right-handed gun. I was a lefty. I learned to shoot right-handed because, there's a false, I think, premise out there that spec ops, you get whatever you want. That's custom built. Bullshit. It's just, here's a box of ammo, like a crate of ammo. Go do your thing, right? Here's a gun. Make it happen. And you go out there and you learn your craft, but you learn with what you have. And it's practice and repetitions and starting to just know what that gun does. What settings you got to be on. Range estimation was huge, and then trying to figure that out. And like I've talked to you before, if you're off like 50 yards at distance, that's a massive miss. And then you're missing. You're making noise, people start to fire back and come after you. So we got real good at range estimation without using range finders, being able to hit those shots, understanding our capabilities, right? How far can I be and make an accurate shot, or do I need to crawl a little bit closer? But I'd also be that dude that I wanted to crawl like damn near their campfire just to see if I could do it. Yeah. I'd be like 20 feet away, like, probably a little close.
I'll just hit him with the end of the barrel.
Yeah, just save ammo to come in.
What caliber and what optics were y'all using back in the day? Because this wasn't back in the Stone Ages, but it was
early 90s.
Ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so early 90s.
Early 90s. What
was the caliber? What was the scope?
So we were using 308s. It was the M24 sniper rifle, 24. I think it was a 24 or 26 inch gun. I believe it's 24-inch bull barrel crowned with 308, right? And I thought that was the end-all, be-all. A little trivia for you is in the last 5 to 10 years, I'd say 5 to 7 years, we have come further in ballistics than we have in the last 50. They have really crack the code on bullet flight, bullet travel, understanding mathematically what's going on and being able to reverse engineer shots. The guy out there by the name of Brian Litz, I'll throw him a bone. This dude is like the Swami on mathematics. I mean, he's a ballistics guy, right? His job was figuring out how to launch artillery for the military, from point A to point B, travel times of minutes. You're talking even Earth rotation, the Coriolis effect coming into that when you're talking minutes of flight time to hit something. And he just dialed it back and started doing ballistic stuff on long range stuff, rifle caliber stuff. And he basically changed the game on how we shoot, by showing you those formulas. And we've done it. This is what I've been teaching. Like, hey, we can put in a formula and it could give you a projected outcome of where that bullet's going to hit and get pretty daggone close, if not spot on, and then just tweak it a little bit. So you're not out there like we were doing back in the day and just launching shot after shot after shot, recording it until we knew, okay, this is it at this temperature, at this area, in the Northwest where we're getting rained on. And then we go to the desert and it's like, should be the same. It's not.
What was the optics adjustable?
They weren't. So we had a Leupold fixed power. It was a 10X, so 10 power Leupold fixed power. And the reason it was a fixed power is because the reticle we had inside of it was what they called a mil dot reticle. And we literally used that reticle to estimate range with and guess, the best guess, professional guess we could make with that reticle. So that set power gave us the ability to use that without adjusting it. I say adjusting, but we weren't camming in or magnifying because we didn't have the capability. And some of the later scopes, when you start looking at those, they, hey, you can use this reticle, this and that. but you could cam in from like say 3 to 9 or 5 to 20 power. But depending on which focal plane was on, if that crosshair in that range estimation piece got bigger or littler, you were off. Like it has to remain constant. So you had to put it on a specific power setting, which most people didn't.
But back in the day, wasn't Carlos Hathcock shooting a 30-06 with power?
Yeah.
Well, what was that scope? What's that brand of scope that they were using?
Unerdle. Unerdle.
That's it.
Yeah, and I was talking to this guy. I did a class this weekend, right, for a long range class for a guy going out on bighorn hunt, and we were talking about that. I said, now let's look what we just did today, and I took you from 100 to basically a mile, and he didn't quite hit the mile one, but he got 1,000 yards with a 6.5 Creedmoor, and his son got it 7mm mag. He was hitting 1,000, but just did not have the optics to shoot the mile.
Right.
And I said, think about this. Let's go back 60-something years, 70 years to guys like Carlos Hathcock and some of these other snipers that were doing this shit naturally. Like 50 cal with like iron sights at 2,000 yards and this and that. I said, it's incredible. They're just natural. That they didn't have range estimation, gadgets and all these tools that help us be better and more lethal today. And they were devastating back in the day. And it just makes you scratch your head.
If you're out there with your, what's the guy called? Is your teammate?
Yeah.
If you're shooting and you have your spotter.
Yeah, spotter and shooter. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously, I'm assuming you'd like to be the shooter.
Yeah. You always want to be the guy on the gun.
But talk to me about calling the wind and the job of that spotter.
In all honesty, that usually your spotter is the more experienced dude, because he's got the most time on the gun. He's got the most time looking at the environmentals and what's going on out there to help you place that shot. The guy pulling the trigger is basically doing what the spotter says. But the argument always turns in, who's the gangster that gets to pull the trigger and get the kill, right? Yeah. We always want to be the guy on the gun. Chris Kyle was I guess, infamous for it, right? He, in his day, he may rest in peace, he had this knack of being on the gun when it was time to shoot. He'd be taking 4-hour break, right? They wouldn't see squat. Okay, his turn to get on the gun and 15 dudes would show up. And he just, it's like he just had it. But yeah, it could turn into a little bit of an argument, who's going to get the gun first. Well,
if technology's flown by all these years, I remember I never was a fan of the 308 back in the day, and on my ranch in South Texas, I built an AR-10. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's a 308. The AR-15 is a 223, right?
Correct.
So anyway, I started really liking the way that thing performed. And, it wasn't a sexy round for me back in the day. And then all of a sudden I said, hey, I love this thing. So I have 3 or 4.
Yeah, we went out and shot them.
308, so I love them. But they shoot like a rainbow.
They absolutely do.
But they have inherent accuracy. But my question to you is, the 308, as great as it is it still that go-to gun, or have they upgraded the caliber?
Yeah, they have. I say they as a very general reference.
Yes.
But like I said, in the last 5 to 7 years, ballistically, we've come so far. When you look and start to spend money, on high-end guns, where you can easily go over $5,000-$6,000 on a rifle, you want to make sure that's the caliber you really want, right? So when I first started looking at getting a new rifle, a modern sniper rifle, I was looking at the 308. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, let me call a couple guys in the hunting side, because I was hunting people back in the day, not big game animals. So let me ask somebody who does this stuff all the time, and what do they use, so that I'm kind of going down the right road. And he's like, 6.5 Creedmoor all day. I'm like, well, why not a 308, this and that? And he started explaining to me ballistics, and I won't get down the road on that. People turn this thing off and be like, man, my head hurts. But it just flies better, defeats wind better, goes farther, carries more energy, all these things. So you just increased your capabilities by several hundred yards. And I was like, well, damn. Oh, and it recoils less. I was like, that's great. So you're seeing the advent of the 6.5 Creedmoor, the 6.5 PRC, which is precision rifle cartridge, a beefed up Creedmoor rounds, flying faster, the speed being kind of the king. If I can get it there quicker, less time for wind and other things, environmentals to mess with it. 300 Norma, like my wife likes to shoot, that big ass hog leg. It was like a 7mm, done this, did that, without getting all the loading stuff. To make it go faster, farther, with less resistance in the air. So the 308, I won't say is obsolete, but it is it leaps and bounds beyond that. And I think part of the reason the military stuck with it for so long is that it's a NATO round, right? It's kind of a by law, which we're the only ones that really follow it. The good guys follow it.
Just because, explain that, the NATO round.
Yeah, so the NATO round, when you start talking about your 7.62, like the Soviets are using, the 308, the 5.56, the 9mm and 45s, these are rounds that, I already forgot what NATO stands for, but it's this association that's saying, hey, this organization is saying this is what's legal in combat. If you're using something besides that, it's murder. Yeah, it's you can use this, but you can't use that.
Right.
you can blow a dude up with a mine, but you can't gas him with sarin. It's that would be inhumane. It's
weird.
Yeah, right. There's laws to warfare, but certain things apply, certain things don't. It's been modernized, I guess you could say. I know I've got some buddies that still keep in touch with me in the community, and they're using 300 Win Mags or 338 Lapuas now, and they're using some other stuff that I'm not super familiar with, so I won't even talk about it. But they are increasing their lethality based on equipment, and then learning how to weaponize math big time.
Feeling great, man.
Champs in the house tonight.
Yes, we do, man. Unbelievable, man. Titans in here. About to go off, dude.
We ready to do this stuff?
Ready to rock, man.
You ready to rock,
Camera
champ?
guys, ready to roll. Mike, you ready?
Ready.
Ready.
Listen free to Hotbox and exclusively available on Apple Podcasts and PodcastOne.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
I know you just went on a hunt. You went out to New Mexico on an elk hunt.
Yeah, for the missus.
Your wife's tag or your tag?
It was my wife's tag.
Okay, so y'all were out there and nothing materialized, right?
Nothing. I saw a butt of one about 2 miles away. By the time we got there, they were all brushed up, and weather didn't cooperate whatsoever. Had a great time.
But you went out on a hunt earlier this year, and what unit were you in?
291, not far from the Casa.
Okay, I was in Unit 015 for the last few days, and we were basically just being based out of my brother-in-law's house here in Spanish Springs. And shit, man, we was making about a 60-mile drive out there, 60, 70 miles. Then we get in the buggy, driving out 25, 30. And, man, just fighting the wind all day. And so when you took that mule deer that you took, how far was that thing out?
It was like a mile. No, I'm totally bullshitting. It was probably, Steve, this was probably the biggest gimme hunt I've ever had. It was ridiculous. So we're searching around, not seeing nothing. And we got word of this. The word used was there was a dandy of a buck about, a different mountain. So we were on one mountain. And hey, at the base of this other mountain, we're seeing a dandy. So we start heading that direction, and my wife spots these 2 bucks. And
well, where'd you get that intel from?
A dude.
Okay, but that was called Joe.
Yeah,
I mean, because that's what we'll do. I go, my brother-in-law said, "Hey, man, my buddy's been hunting 015 this whole year, and he got a hell of a buck." And so, yeah,
that's exactly what happened.
Got the DL from him.
We got some information from friends of ours in Smith Valley who had been driving this one dirt road, and he's like, "Man, I've been seeing this dandy of a buck at the base of in these rose bushes," and he's like, "He'll be there. Like, you get there, he'll be there." We never made it, because I ended up seeing this other one. My wife spotted this little forky, and we're in 2 buggies, right? So she's in the front one with our friend Larry. I'm in the back one with my buddy Mike. And so we pull over, and I see Larry point, and you can see my wife Annalise kind of looking. And the angle they were on, come to find out, like, they could only see the forky. My buddy Mike gets out. I was like, "Yeah, let me take a look." I didn't even get out of the buggy. And he's like, "Yeah, it's just a forky and everything, but I see the butt of another one. Let's see what this is." About 5 seconds later, he's like, "Hey, man, get ready to shoot. That's a 4-point. That's a good buck." So I scramble out. My wife's looking back because all she can see is the forky, and I don't know it. And so she thinks, like, what is this SOB doing? He's going to shoot this small-ass deer. And we're supposed to be going to this dandy. Yeah. And so I scramble out.
Y'all's difference of a dandy is a lot different than mine.
Yeah, right? Meat's meat. So I scramble out, and I'm looking, and this thing, we're less than 100 yards. It's like 90-something yards. It's sub 100. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the ground. I'm looking back at it, and I'm like, I can even get on the ground. I can get prone, right? We call prone, laying down, about the most stable position you're going to get, right? I'm like, it don't get easier than this. Yeah. Like, with the rifles I got and the skill set, it's like, I might as well just go run it over with the buggy, because that'd be more of a challenge. Yeah. So I laid down, dialed it in, and I got my gun suppressed. So as soon as I shoot, my wife hears the slap, and that little forky jumps up like it had been hit. My wife's like, "What the hell? Like, why would you shoot that?" And I'm like, Mike said it was a shooter. Yeah. But she didn't realize I shot the 4-point, not that forky. And it jumped up, and then she sees the 4-point run about 40 yards and lay down. So she's freaking out, thinking I shot this little thing. But it was just a fortunate hunt, right? I had limited time. We were coming up, I think, was it Thanksgiving? Yeah. Beginning part of November. My buddies only really had that weekend. We were on our way to that dandy, but this guy presented himself, and I'm like, I cannot pass this up. And you and I've had this talk, man.
Damn right.
You don't pass up what you shoot on the last day on the first day. Yeah. And that was him. And he broadsided for me. Never knew we were there. Yeah. And as soon as that bullet hit him, he was dead before he knew it. We drove the side by side up there, corded it, loaded it up. It was the biggest gimme hunt, but absolutely blessed and fortunate to be able to harvest, because that was the first tag I pulled in Nevada in 5 years. Yeah.
God dang, man! I drew a guide tag, and my brother-in-law is a guide. So, man, I'm doing good, and we're hunting Unit 015. My question before I get on with my story is, in your scope, you shoot a different system than I do. Now, I know you represent Leopold. And what is the name of your scope? The one I've been running currently is the Leupold Mark V. So the Mark series is kind of like their mil spec or their militarized one, more ruggedized, and I am tough on my gear. Not to say those gold rings don't hold up, man. They both run lifetime warranties, but your VX series are your gold rings and whatnot, and then your Mark series are your more militarized, ruggedized with the black ring on it, if you will. More sexy, more special, right? No. But just a very robust scope.
with a lot of information in the scope that you can use to be accurate.
Man, I went through your damn scope down at the shooting range, and that, man, it's different because I'm used to just one crosshair.
Yep.
Then several years ago, when Leopold introduced the monochronic reticle, which you and me, set the
we went out
on,
and checked out
last year. That's what I'm using. But my question to you is, if you were to make a long shot, let's just say a 500-yard shot, because I don't think it's out of the question. What are you doing as far as wind? Because there were some very unforgiving conditions on my last hunt, and I was shooting uphill, and I'll get to that in a minute. But you're basically have been a spotter, you've been a sniper, you see this animal. What are you doing about wind if you have a hell of a crosswind?
Yeah,
because
you definitely got to factor it.
It's never something I've ever factored in.
Yeah, and you
so
have
far,
to.
I've been lucky.
Yeah, wind is the almighty equalizer. So we in the old days, gravity affects everything. You, me, bullets, everything. But nowadays we can mathematically neutralize gravity, right? We know how high to throw it to defeat gravity to make it hit where we want at that distance, right? So it's basically a non-factor. Wind, 100% a factor all the time, whether it's a little bit or a lot. You must factor it. In the moment you pull the trigger, she'll change. It'll change on you. It was doing it to me all day yesterday. It could be catastrophic or it could be advantageous. Sometimes you flinch and the wind pushes it right back in for you. But you definitely want to look at that. And if you want to get even more geeky, at 500 and out, you start even thinking about spin drift, and that's the effect of the bullet, the spin of the bullet, the rotation, if you will, and how it starts to move in the air as it gets pushed. And at like 500 yards yesterday, I was looking at that and factored in, and so for him, he had an MOA scope, and it was like 0.3 at 500 yards. So 500 yards. We were basically saying that was a click and a half. So, it was about an inch or so. Nothing crazy, maybe just a hair more. Somebody I'm sure will be like, no, that was 1.732. It was moving it a little bit, right? You start to get out to 700, 800, 900. We start talking inches, several inches of movement before we even look at wind that we need to factor in. Hey, it's going to move this one, so we're going to need to start aiming a little more left, and then let's see what wind's doing. Is it going to neutralize that spin drift, this or that?
Are you moving a little bit to the left, or are you dialing something on the scope?
I rarely dial wind, for the simple fact that I'll forget, and then my next shot's going to be something crazy. Like I'll be looking at that and thinking about it, and then forget I already adjusted on here. You could get lost quick. If we're going to do a super long shot hunting, I will dial, or I'll have somebody dial. If I'm with them, I'll have them dial in the spin drift, and then we'll start looking at wind, just because we know that is a fact going to move. So when we did that 1,100-yard shot a couple years ago, I was telling you about, we dialed in 10 inches of spin drift and then started looking at wind. Closer ranges, I don't.
But just as far as elevation goes, are you, I forget looking through your scope, did it have those circles, are you zeroed at 100?
Yes. All my mathematics are based off 100-yard zero. We can change that.
Are you clicking up?
Correct.
Okay, if you see,
I like to.
You see something 600 yards out, you're clicking up, say, let's call it 6 clicks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we'll say, as for an example, 6 clicks. 6 clicks or 6 MOA or 6 mils, whatever it might be. I personally like to dial that in and use my crosshairs. Now, with the reticle I have, I could literally be, okay, I need to come up 6 mils. I could go down my reticle and go to the 6 line and put that on there and send it all day. I can do that.
Right. So you're basically raising the gun up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm compensating for gravity.
Right.
And that bullet trajectory. So what I'm trying to do is just make my scope meet the bullet at the same place I'm aiming.
Is it about gravity? You're compensating for gravity.
Yeah, compensating for gravity.
But also a lack of or diminishing inertia?
The energy of the bullet flight. Yeah, speed of the bullet. That's what we start talking about, that speed is king thing. Yeah. If I can launch a bullet at 3,000 feet a second, at 700-800 yards, it might only be at like 1,800 feet a second. We're not losing a ton, but as it further gets, it starts to drop off faster. So you look at a slower moving bullet, you got to figure it out. There's a whole equation we do, and muzzle velocity is one of the factors in there, right?
Man, yeah, but I was fixing to go out the other day, and last time I was here in Nevada, you and I were going to go shooting, and the shooting range was just
it was like circus,
was booked
dude.
up. There wasn't one space out there to shoot. And I get nervous when there's that many people throwing bullets.
Dude, I was looking in the paper looking for obituaries and stuff. Like somebody got shot the range that day. I guarantee it. Because there was so many people.
And I need to get back to L.A., but then when I come back, I've only got a day.
Shot.
I've only got a day to get my gun dialed in. So sure enough, man, I load up. I knew you was going to be working, so I didn't give you a call. Went down there, had all my stuff, had this damn lawn chair out there. When I show up with these purple, green, and yellow lawn chairs, I'm a junk.
Fashion statement.
Dude, you talk
the
about
range fashion
redneck.
Statement.
Now I show up with this damn lawn chair, all my Fernie pads. I got a couple little lead bags and stuff like that. But most of those guys out there running some kind of custom chair, some kind of lead sled to hold a gun. And I'm like, man,
I bring a moving pad.
I ain't going to have that when I'm out there hunting. Now, it's cool to have that to dial something in.
Yeah.
I just like to shoot, on a real good rest and, do as best I can.
Well, there's something to be said for that, Steve, because think about this. I try to explain it this way. People will look at that and they'll feel you won't have that in the bush. But, okay. Why would I set myself up for failure, right? If my zero is the foundation of everything I do, don't I want that to be as absolute as possible? So why not set yourself up for success at the range? I don't care if it's the purple, green, and blue chair or in prone, bags, whatever it is, so as factually your zero is your zero and your data is good.
Right.
Because you're only going to add the variables once you hit the bush. I want that to be absolute. So there's no... The people that say that just don't know, man. They're just being ignorant.
So, man, I go down there, and sure enough, I get to the gate, and it says law enforcement training today, public, you can come in. I'm like, oh, man, I'm getting skunked. And I said, I got to get this gun dialed in. So I go out to the BLM out there in the Pine Nuts. And I go out there and I find a good backstop. And a lot of people shoot skeet out there. You see all the orange remains and everything. But, man, when you're talking about a high caliber rifle, that's a whole different ball game. And I'm shooting a 300 Win Mag. And so it's easy. I put my paper target down. I put my steel target down. And I got my rangefinder binoculars. I get my pickup truck. I back up 100 yards. I get my kind of lead bag that I use to shoot off of. I put it on my windowsill and on my driver's side rearview mirror. And, man, I'm pretty solid.
That's
and then I get one of my Fernie pads to stick it up underneath my right arm. And, dude, you're talking about rednecking it. I'm locked in. And I shoot, and I'm dead on 2 inches high at 100 yards. Okay, that's fine.
You got a 200-yard zero on your gun.
Yeah, 200-yard zero. And so I backed off. When you start backing up out there, you've been out there, sand pit, elevation is not the same. So all of a sudden you back up, you can't see your targets anymore. And then all of a sudden you see,
somebody's walking their dog,
motorcycle, or someone's out there walking their dog. And I get in my pickup truck, I gather up all my stuff, put all my shit in the back of the pickup truck. I said, let me go down this road where there ain't nobody. And as soon as I get over there, there's some dude in the truck. I don't know what he's doing, but he's in the truck. So I don't want to know what he's doing.
I don't know.
He might be walking his dog. But, I said,
he might be doing something else, too.
Yeah. So point being, when you're trying to just, on public land, find a safe place to shoot a high caliber
even
weapon,
just getting a couple hundred yards can be tough. Yeah.
So I said, F it, I'll go back to the house. Maybe everybody get through shooting at the shooting range, and I'll go back and get it dialed in. And that's what happened. Dead on at 200. Then I put my 300 steel out there, dead on at 300. And that's when I give you a call. And I said, hey, man, I think from then on it was 400, 500, 600. I think we might have went out to 650 or 7 on that bottom.
I think 6 or 650 was the bottom of that
bottom
point.
Trident point. And so I called you and you said, hey, man, I can come over, and you were going to do some kind of math for me.
Yeah, I was going to do.
What were you going to do? Because remember, we went down the store. I was shooting 160 grain bullets, and they were out of those, so I was shooting a heavier grain bullet, 180.
We needed to plug that into the math.
Zero was. So what were you going to do for me?
So there's a bunch of different apps out there, right, that you can put in the mathematics, whether it's like your height over bore, muzzle velocities, your bullet weight, bullet length. So we take all these factors and we dump it into this formula, and it'll spit out what I call a projected shooting solution, right? It's going to spit out the data. A lot of times it is spot on. Like yesterday, we were off, I think at the end of the day, at the farthest one, we were off like a minute and a half. So we got projected.
What does a minute and a half mean to the guys at the podcast?
So let's say at 1,000 yards, 1 minute is 10 inches at 1,000 yards. 1 minute at 100 is 1 inch. So it factors at the distance you're at, right? So if you're talking about a minute and a half at 1,000 yards, like 15 inches off. But if you've already done the math prior to, that gets you pretty darn close, right? At least you're able to find the dang bullet and be like, all right, we can make a correction. So we go from projected shooting solution to factual. And that's when you pull the trigger and we hit and we start to get it into exactly where you want to be hitting. That's your actual factual data. So being able to project it, sometimes it is dead nuts on. I had a class a couple weeks ago, and it was dead on out to 900 first round hits. I mean, the math was just right there. And it could have been something to do with air density, altitude. There's a lot of junk going on that we never factored in before that we do now to be able to give you a higher confidence or probability of first round hits out to distance. So for like example, yours, I'm absolutely certain that out to 600, you'd have first round hits at the range, prone, or at the truck, bushed up or benched up nice and tight in the truck, because that's what we want. We want to make sure that we're as stable as possible. So there's no other factors. So when we do get out in the bush and I got to shoot from the kneeling or off the freaking, side of a tree, that I'm braced up against, or your bipod off your backpack, that you're going to start to move, but we know the gun's accurate.
Yeah.
So that variable's gone. So we just continue to reduce those variables, build constants in by having this math. So that's what we're going to do with yours, was put in the math, spit out a solution to make sure it was getting you as close as possible, and realize that when we're doing it at the range, we were splitting frog hairs. You and I are both geeky like that. We want to be able to put that bullet when we pull the trigger as if we were going down there and placing it with our hand. You get out and you just chase this thing up the side of a mountain and you're breathing hard and 160 beats a minute. We want it to still be within the heart and lung field, right? Like that's a lot bigger. But when we practice for this, This looks like a massive target, and that's what we're after.
I was talking with my brother-in-law, and he knows the state of Nevada like the back of his hand. You met him, and he's been doing this for over 40 years. Man, he's not trained up on the kind of shooting that you do, but as far as knowing where he's at and just knowing each unit in Nevada, it's uncanny. So we go out there in 015 and we're basing out of his house. We drive 60, 70 miles out to get off the trailer off the buggy, and then get out there. And we're riding around, dude, all day long in that cold ass wind.
Up on top there, you get
up on top.
So small,
and that wind starts blowing, and god dang, it's just miserable. And that first year I killed that deer right there at 175. That's a good ass mule deer. And I was on the first or second day. That deer was in rut, and he stayed there. It was a $164, $184. It was a gimme. Yeah. And I just said, hey, man, this mule deer hunting's easy. Next year, I passed on a 150 and didn't see anything after that and got smoked. And that was a landowner tag, which I spent $4 bills on. That's a lot of money.
Landowner tags aren't cheap to come back empty.
That's hurt my feelings. And I said, you don't pass up anything out here, man. I've been hunting South Texas a long time. And South Texas is shooting. I wouldn't qualify that as hunting unless you're hunting free range and you're not over bait. Out here, this is a real deal.
Yeah, you're going to work for it.
And we rode around for a day and a half, and we didn't see one single animal. We saw a couple donkeys. We saw some horses. We saw a bunch of antelope, and they were beautiful. Yeah. But that's not what we're looking for.
That's not what you're looking for.
And you get out there, and sometimes, guys using that big glass, and he'll bust out his Swarovski, put it on a bipod, on his tripod, and get down in his chair, and then just start glassing. And when they started doing that a couple of years ago, I asked them, I said, man, what are you guys doing? Well, we're looking for a horn, we're looking for an ear, we're looking for an ass. They got that white ass. You're just looking for something that sticks out of that sagebrush. Boy, that sagebrush is a son of a gun.
They'll disappear in a heartbeat. It blows me away.
You got to study it. And we didn't have any good light because it's really overcast, so we had bad light on top of everything.
Right.
And so he's got a real good pair of binoculars that kind of got a little tint to them, and it really makes that game pop. I'm running a pair of Leicas, both 10-power binoculars. Right. So, dude, when you're looking a couple miles out with 10-power binoculars,
that's a pull. That's
here's
a stretch.
The thing, being from South Texas and being a little ADD, man. At first, I'm kind of scanning. Dude, you can't scan. You've got to study.
Stay there for a couple minutes, just looking at everything, dissect it, and then move a little piece, dissect it.
Everything. Now, that second day, that's when I was like, okay, I'm in the zone, and I'm studying each friggin'
every under sagebrush, looking for
anything.
Is that a stick or is it a horn?
And it ain't there. And so it was so frustrating because my brother-in-law says, man, I've never gone 2 days and not seen a deer. Maybe not a buck, but a deer. And so finally, we come across 8 does towards the end of the second day. And seeing those 8 does was like that hope spot in a wrestling match, like, the heels beating the baby face down and just beating him up. Finally, that baby face makes a little comeback on him. And that's the hope spot. So seeing those does was like reinvigorating because we were like, Kristen had sent us this thing from NDOW, Nevada Department of Wildlife. Hey, man, Unit 015 is down from the boom period of the 80s, down, 60, 70% down from that. Finding a mature buck is going to be very hard. Here's some of the areas.
Don't you put that on me, Kristen.
I'm like, I
don't need those numbers.
The odds are already stacked against us. And to give people out there a perspective of the unit we were hunting, there are bigger units out there, but a unit 015, if I'm not mistaken, if you're looking at my computer, that's 750 square miles.
It's a big one up there in the northwest corner.
Yeah, so we're out there looking on a 750 square mile area. So
doesn't seem big.
I sent out some pictures on Instagram, and it's funny because a lot of the haters or the antis, sitting there, well, why are you out there killing something or whatever? It's like, I don't want to get to a big thing about it, but it's like, hey, man, a man/woman has been hunting since the dawn of time.
Days, yep.
Just because it's 2019, why stop now? It's worked for so long, and if no one hunted back in the day, no one would be here now. It wasn't like they had all the damn crop fields back in the day. Yeah. Meat was the only option.
Hunter-gatherer.
Yeah, hunter-gatherer. But God dang, you get them people, and they just think you're just out there. I sent a picture out there of some antelope crossing. Yeah. Oh, why you out there killing it?
I wasn't actually killing those.
Yeah. I'm looking for a mule deer, and I'm going to eat the mule deer if I'm lucky enough to take the mule deer. And oh, by the way, we're out in his front yard, his house, and he's got the advantage, and it's fair chase.
Yeah, that's fair chase all day.
And we're doing everything we can to just locate this deer.
Let alone get a shot.
Shot. So I just don't understand when people, and man, I've been hunting when my stepdad married my mom. He's the one that introduced us to hunting, and hell, I just remember trailing behind him, making noise, and he's looking back perpetually with that, shh, be quiet, damn it.
I'll beat you with a stick.
Stepping on every stick that you can step on.
I'll beat you with that stick.
And I probably took my first deer at 14 or 15, whatever it was. So I've been hunting my whole life. It's something that I do. And if
there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, man.
If you don't agree with it, I'm sure there's something in your life that I don't agree with that you do, but I don't care.
But that's cool. Exactly. Cool. Do you?
You do you.
Don't bitch about what I'm doing. Yeah, what I'm doing. And what you're doing is legal. It's 100% legal.
Yeah, it's not legal. It's not unethical.
Yeah.
Yeah, and every time I go out, like I wanted to hook up with you, like I do every year, I make sure I know exactly what my gun will do. So anyway, dude, we're out there. We're glassing this big country. And have you ever been in Unit 015?
Yeah. So small little fact, my very first mule deer ever was in 015.
Oh, dude.
And I got about a 170 deer. So,
oh, dude.
And it was a 204-yard shot in a rut. Just, he had no worries whatsoever until that doe stepped away from him.
Were?
I don't, but the reservoir?
Yeah.
We were about 8 miles north of that reservoir up on top. Man. But I don't remember exactly where.
God dang. Did you ever go over to Eagle Head?
That sounds familiar too.
Okay, we went over to Eagle Head. That was kind of one of his honey holes. We were hitting the spots that he's had success, over the past few years before we really had to get into the other stuff that was going to be further away. And so we were in the area of, god dang, now it's Dry Valley. Does that sound Dry Valley Rim?
Yeah.
Anyway, we was on the front side of the Skedaddle Mountains and the back side of the Black Mountain.
Okay.
And I'll be damned if we wasn't out there. And this is on the third day. And we're going to take a break after that and then hunt Sunday, Monday. And yes, today is Monday, and we're fixing to head back to L.A. So all of a sudden, we're out there glassing. And my brother-in-law says, I got muleys. And I'm like...
You got girls or boys?
Yeah. The girls don't have horns. We're hunting for boys. And I'll be damned. I said, where? He goes, about 3 miles away, that patch of yellow grass out there. Sure enough, I throw up my binoculars. You can see it a little bit, but you can just see animals.
Right.
Here's the thing. We've been seeing horses, donkeys, antelope, stuff like that. Cows, okay, body size are smaller than cows, smaller than horses, bigger than
the donkey,
antelope.
Antelope.
But he goes, those are muleys. And sure enough, got a little bit of white on their ass. So he busts out the heavy artillery, the big glass. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, there's it's a group of about 14 or 15, or it might have been 17, but there's a couple of little spikes, little forkies, a young deer about 3 or 4 with a decent horn, and an old guy.
Yeah.
The one I ended up taking, and they're 3 miles away. And
Let's
said,
get moving.
I've heard about this, but I ain't never done this. I said, well, they're 3 miles away. Dude, we ain't seen nothing.
Yeah.
And I tell us a big old mature buck. I said, man, let's go get one of them. And let's go get that over there. And I said, how are we going to do this? He goes, man, he's been all over the damn state of Nevada. He goes, I think there's a road that will take us over there. I remember hunting sage grouse out here a couple of years ago. It was like 20 years ago. Sure enough, dude, we got on that road. We rode around a couple miles. We get there, and before we left, we kind of had some landmarks, a kind of a knoll, like a bull nose off of a knoll, and a tree miles away.
That tree.
And those were our marks because, man, when you start traveling and you start going back around and around,
you can lose them fast, and it all looks the same.
Going over a ridge and everything changes. So all of a sudden he goes, they ought to be just a little bit further ahead. And sure enough, we rolled up on them. And here's where things kind of went awry. You know, I'm running like a binoculars, man, and I got a bad battery in there. So it's spitting out some numbers that he don't agree with.
You got the ones with the rangefinder built in. Yeah.
And the Trinovids. And I said, hey, man, this thing's usually dead nuts, but I know I got a dead battery. He goes, no, man. He goes, I'm at 500. He goes, let me see if I can get us in a little bit more. Because I was at like 670. Okay. That's a big difference.
That's a miss.
So anyway, he ranges them at 500. He goes in, starts driving in. They start seeing us in, start getting a little antsy. We get over there. He goes, can you take a shot from here? You're at 380. I said, yeah, I'll shoot that because I know where I'm at. But, now in the back of my mind, mine's saying 460. So
gotcha.
I'm on the buggy. I'm on a half windshield. I got my car hard off, got my gun on top of that, kind of, something soft to shoot off, not something hard surface.
Yeah, slippery.
And then I'm out. He goes, man, they're getting ready to go. And I said, man, can you stick my backpack underneath my right arm? He goes, yeah. He comes over, sticks the backpack.
Yeah, perfect.
Now I'm solid. Right when I touched off, those deer hauled ass. Cow. That just
no slap.
Where's the slap? You want that cow. Poof.
Yep.
And we didn't get that, and them damn deer hauled ass, and I'm sitting there thinking it's the end of the world. I said, God dang it, man. I said, because I wasn't sure on my dope. I was sure with what I knew with you.
Right.
But now.
So my guess is you were holding differently than.
I'm holding differently because I got 2 different ranges, and I didn't know where to really. I shot over them. So I said, all right, dude. We went over to where we thought they were, and we're looking up at a mountain. And I said, God dang, man. Well, I guess I blew it. And what do, dude? You've been chasing around for 3 days, and you're beaten up by the wind, the cold. It started raining, and I'll be damned. And he's about to reach for the keys, start that buggy up. I look up at that mountain. I said, God damn, there they are.
Yeah, we're not leaving.
They're on top of that ridge, skylighted.
No shit.
They're skylighted. I said, God dang, there they are, man. There they are. So we bust out the glass, and I'm looking, all right, there they are. There's the buck that I was shooting at, and there's that younger buck, and I can take either one, but I want the old buck.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't shoot for a while. Does was covered up. It had 2 in front of him facing each way. And I said, I got to wait for those does to clear. I said, I won't take a shot. And does cleared out. And he goes, Steve, that's pretty clear. I said, I don't like the shot. They got to clear more. Wind and stuff. This is a 450-yard shot.
Yeah, okay. So you're at that 450 then?
Yeah, he's using his Swarovski dedicated rangefinder. My batteries are bad, but this is a 450-yard shot. So, dude, I go down 4 crosshairs, hold up just a little bit. Yeah. Dude, first round, touched off. It was a misfire. I just hit my trigger just because, I was moving around. Cow. Over them. They're still there. God damn it. He goes, give me your glove. I'd take my right-hand glove off, and he put it underneath my stock.
Okay.
On the back. I was shooting off the back of his dog box on a buggy.
Yeah, gotcha.
So now I got a good rest. I'm standing, legs spread, really solid. And right when I touched that second round, that's when they left. Cow! Pooh!
Nice.
Oh.
It's a good feeling, man.
I spun him. And so I said, God damn, he's down, or, he turned and went out of sight.
Yeah.
Rest of the deer ran off. And I said, shit, there ain't no road up there. I said, what's the next step? Because this is the first time I've been in a situation.
Yeah.
That first deer we drove up on 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden, there ain't no road up there. It goes, okay, you walk up the face of the mountain. I'll go back around the other side and see if there's a road up there. Man, dude, I'm at sea level in Texas and in Cali.
You're a better part of 7,000 plus up there.
No, I don't think we was at 7,000.
You weren't high enough?
Probably about what we are here, about 4 or 5. Yeah.
Okay, so you weren't at the top.
We were on top.
Gotcha.
We were on bottom. And so I start walking up that mountain. I'm like, dude, my fucking heart's beating, my chest. I'm wheezing. I'm like, God dang, I got to get up to the top of the mountain to find this deer. And I'm lucky because I took the shot at 12:15, so we got a lot of light.
Yeah.
But the weather's coming in.
Ain't that funny, though? 12:15. My last 2 buck hunts, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm still skeptical on this get up at 4 in the morning thing.
Well, the only reason we just get up at 4 in the morning was to get.
You got to haul out. You got to get all the way out there.
Haul out to get out there, because by the time you get out there, get off your trailer, and get out there, then it's hunt time.
Absolutely.
So anyway, we get up there, and I'm looking around, dude, and that sagebrush up there, it's 1.5 feet, 2 feet tall. Okay, if a deer's going to be laying on the side, in theory, and its rack's on the side, you can't see that.
You can't see it till you're on it. Yeah.
And you're like looking for a needle in a haystack. And I went to the point at which, I thought they were standing, looking at, South Texas, looking for some blood or something.
Yeah.
And nothing. My brother-in-law comes walking up there. He goes, man, that you hit that deer, but it's we need to find it.
Yeah.
And we need to finish it. And he goes, you glass all this and walk down the side of this ridge, and I'll go get the buggy and come back and help you out. He goes back down that buggy, and he goes, you know what? This is why he's so smart. This is why he's good at what he does. He goes, there's no way that deer's too smart. He didn't leave there. And so I think what that deer did, when I got up there and started stomping around, I think I jumped him. And so I'm way down there doing what he told me to do, and I hear someone yell behind me. And you got to understand, it's a 750 square mile unit, and there ain't nobody else out there. It's not hunting like in South Texas. You might hear your neighbor see some way by and ask for help. Dude, you're there, and if you fuck up, if you panic,
it could be
if
a while.
You wreck something, if you do something stupid, you're on your own.
It's gonna be a while.
So I yell someone, hey! I turned around. It's my brother-in-law back on that mountain, giving me the wave. Okay, if he's giving me the wave, there's got to be something up there, right? He ain't telling me to walk back up this fucking mountain, stick a pull a rib on me.
Just for cardio.
Yeah. So, man, I humped back up that mountain, and I said, what's up? He goes, I found him. I said, where is he? He goes, he's 500 miles away in a pile of sagebrush. And I said, are you ribbing me? He goes, no. He goes, we got to go finish this.
500 miles.
500 yards.
Okay.
500 yards. Sorry. 500 yards. So we get back up there, and he goes, okay, he's 50 yards away. He goes, look right through that tea leaf or whatever, some kind of wild plant out there. I said, I ain't seeing nothing.
Those mule ears or whatever. Yeah.
I ain't seeing nothing. He goes, you don't see his antlers up there? I said, no. He goes, okay, take 2 steps forward. He's completely white. He's a really old buck. When you see him, he's going to jump. You need to finish him.
Yeah.
And sure enough, dude, I took 2 I dialed my scope down to 4.5.
Yeah.
So I got
wide angle view. Yeah.
So all of a sudden I took 2 steps forward. There he is. Guns off, safety. Wham. Finished the deal. That old buck was so smart, so savvy, so tough. He completely earned my respect. I didn't know, being new to mule deer, he took that first shot. I made a good shot on him at the angle and the way when he left at 450 yards with wind, and to connect like that. But dude, when I was walking down there searching that brush, you feel like a pile of shit because
amen, dude.
You got an animal in harm's way, but the deal ain't done. And I don't like that's not me. You got to find that deer.
I did the same thing in Texas.
You got to seal the deal because you got to be responsible out there.
Absolutely.
And so anyway, we finished the deal, and that he had one side busted up, but that was the most fun hunt I've ever been on in my life. And that deer, You see that big 175 right there? That's a cool deer, but that deer that I just took is my favorite deer that I've ever taken. And that's how it all
the challenge of it, the experience of it, the savviness of the animal, like all that stuff really plays into just like we talked about why I did a lot of things I did. It was to see if I could do it, the challenge of it, and the experience, right? And he just gave you a lifelong experience you'll never forget, man. Wasn't the biggest deer you've ever shot,
no,
but absolutely challenging, especially after how many days, not seeing anything, man. And
it really also changed, like down in South Texas, we're trying to grow big whitetails, and it's more managing. And it's just a whole different ball game. This one really put perspective, like you said, when you were going for that dandy buck, but you came across a buck that you couldn't pass up. You don't know if that dandy is not a gimme. It's not 100%. It's not a layup. It's not a guarantee.
Nope.
And so if you see something, I like shooting those old deer.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want to shoot a young deer. I like the old deer.
Well, those young ones are going to keep the herd along. Yeah. And those old deer, a lot of times are like you said, man, they're savvy, man. They're smart. They're old for a reason.
Dude, he'd avoided hunters for so many years and then had positioned himself over in that sagebrush. That sagebrush was about 6 foot tall over there.
And they absolutely disappeared.
Spun around facing us. And had we not got him, he would have bled out.
Yeah, he'd have died right there.
But he didn't deserve that. But for my brother-in-law to have the uncanny instincts and savvy to figure out, you know what, that buck did not
right
leave,
there.
Dude, when he come upon him, he's like, God damn, is that a different? No, that's the deer. That's when he backed out. Yeah. Didn't spook the deer, came and got me, sealed the deal, and it was a hunt of a lifetime.
Dude, that's awesome. Congrats on that, man.
The adventure began. I said, okay, how are we going to do this? Well, you got a belt? I said, nope. I got suspenders on my long pants. Okay. He took his belt off, and he goes, wrap his belt around them horns and drag him down the face of that mountain. I'll go back and get the buggy. He said, the buggy's almost turned over. It's between two rocks, but I think I can get it out by myself. I said, man, you want me to help you with the buggy? He goes, no, I was planning on you helping me, but you've got to do this. I've got to get the buggy. I said, well, dude, don't turn the buggy over.
Yeah, we need that.
Yeah, we need that, and I don't need you.
There's a lot of mileage to go.
And so anyway, dude, I've never drug a buck down a mountain before with a belt loop tied around his horns.
They get a little heavy, but and if you get on certain angles, their ass go in front of their horns, like they'll pass you up.
Oh, well, that's what he said. He goes, dude, don't let this thing get a ton of momentum and gore you. If he starts going, you get out of his way. And so I wrapped that thing around his horns and started, dragging him down. And boy, my brother-in-law come busting through that sagebrush. I knew I needed to get him down about 350 yards. And boy, I was never so happy to see that goddamn buggy roll up. And he was just running over big shit. And we loaded him in the back. And then we drove 25 miles back to, when you ride out there towards those Skedaddle Mountains and then Black Mountains over here, you're basically running right up the California border. Yeah. You're in California until you take this right and you come back out because you're in Nevada, and then you go back down the California line and you take that second right, and that's where we were. So it was 25 miles back to where we loaded. And when we got there, we drove the buggy up on the trailer. There was a pile of 15 mule deer with 2 really good bucks, right there.
Of course they were,
but they're in California.
Oh yeah, so they know it.
Yeah, they're in California. And here's the thing about Unit 015, and I'll stop the podcast. I want to talk to you about what you're doing now. But the thing about Unit 015 is it doesn't really hold those mule deer because it's a migration unit. So when the shit gets really bad in California, that's when they'll migrate over because there's food and water for them in 015. Yeah. And then when summer hits, because everything dries up, there ain't no food for them, that's when they go back to California.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Well,
that's
cool. What I've come to understand. So the deer really hadn't migrated in yet, and that's why we hadn't hardly seen any deer.
Interesting. And they probably moved right through I think it's 013 right down there next to it, too. That's all along. It's just a little bit further south than 015, where we actually got Annalise's antelope there, but we were like 3 miles from the California border when we made our shot. Yeah, it's like that. It must be just that thoroughfare through there then, between like Alturas and Gerlach or Gerlach obviously is a little further in, but yeah, that whole range. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
But I think Yeah, my brother's got a cabin in Gerlach. I think that also encompasses part of that unit. But anyway,
yeah, it's big, or it's small comparatively speaking to some of the stuff you get out in the central Nevada or in the northeast corner where they're doing a lot of the big elk hunts and stuff. But yeah relatively speaking, 750 square miles is not big.
No, it's not.
And that's basically, I think, the unit I hunted here in the Pine Nuts was about that, about 700, 750.
Yeah, well, let's put it like this. I mean, there's bigger units, a lot bigger. There's 2,500 square mile units in here. But when you're talking about 750 square miles, are you going to cover all that? Hell no. And you get out there and you get out in all those mountain ranges. And my brother-in-law knows every damn mountain range out there. And he's sitting there naming them all for me. And I'm still trying to remember all of them. But
I'm still figuring out if I'm looking north or south right now.
Well, and that's like you told me. I think you told me all the mountain systems run north and south.
North-south, most all of them.
Yeah.
You'll get some of the rubies will start to curve, but in general, and definitely the Sierra Nevada, you're going to run that north and south.
That helped me out a whole lot because those units I figured out, last 2 years out in 034, I'd kind of getting turned around. And this year, after really paying attention, just from being out in the mountains a lot more than I have been, I'm starting to get acclimated. Like I tell everybody down in South Texas brush country, I know in, out, this, that, whatever, I'm good. But now I'm finally starting to get just a little bit more at home, just being out there in those mountain ranges and being able to identify stuff, because there ain't a more lonely, suck-ass feeling in the world when you get out there and you get lost. You don't get lost because I'm guessing in the doing ranger training, Army training. What did they teach y'all as far as navigation?
There was actually a lot of land navigation, and it turned out that was something I was actually pretty good at. I just had a knack for it. So for example, you get out there and you do land nav. We call it land nav courses. They'll set out points, with a number or a letter and a number, and you got to move from this point to that point, and it's middle of the night, and you're using a compass, and you can't see anything, and then you got to move around water. So you're using all these different techniques to get to that point. And you got to pass this stuff, right? It's important, especially when the mission in my day was raids, ambushes, airfield seizures. So you'd get dropped off miles away, on this side of the hills, and you got to move through them in the middle of the night to get to where you're going to do your hit. You better find it, right?
Yeah, right.
You better find it, yeah. And then when I went to Delta Selection, not the entire thing, but the majority of Delta Selection is land navigation by yourself. Like, wow. You could be there with me, but it's on you. You and I can't collaborate on this movement, right? And it's miles and this and that and up over a mountain, back this way, and it's a month. Delta Selection was a month of that land navigation. There's some other stuff into it I won't get into, but the premise is I was pretty damn good at that stuff and cracking the code on how to move through that terrain efficiently and keep my bearing. The last one I did, was 40 miles in the middle of the night. It took me 15 and a half hours to do it, which I was like 3 hours faster than the next dude. But it was 40 freaking miles through the mountains with a rucksack on your back, 60 pounds on your back. I went through 13 map sheets. Like different map, keep going, different map. And you better not get lost or you're not making it, right? So, 15 and a half hours of me moving through 40 miles of terrain and ending up where I was supposed to be. There's checkpoints along the way, but man, there's fog set in the first thing. I had a couple little snafus there where I'm like, damn, I'm pretty confused right now. Which way is which? Because I'm just socked in. The mountain laurel's this tall, and I'm like, I know there's a road this way, and I'm like crawling over mountain laurels. It took me a while, but I'm like, I will find this point, and I know where I'm at, right? So that's another one of those things, right?
But dude, when you get out there, and that's why when you get out there, like you said, you had a couple of your buddies and Annalise was with you, and a couple of buggies, but you got some backup.
Yeah.
You're one of those guys that ain't gonna get in a problem anyway. But, dude, me out there by myself, I told my wife, I said, I'm real happy hunting with Mitch because, I don't need to be out there, by myself with all the things that you could encounter at this stage of my life. But, I'm fixing to start studying navigation because I just consider it an imperative skill that you need out there because sometimes just when I'm riding my buggies, I'm using this one marker behind me, which which I'm speaking of, but all of a sudden you get a couple of ridges over.
You can't see that marker
anymore. It's like, hey, that theory just went out the wind.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I'm going to bring myself up to speed on. But, even when I'm just riding buggies out there, a lot of my buddies will say, dude, You got to run by yourself.
Yeah, that's a thing, man. Yeah, you roll it over, freaking blow a tire,
you
something,
blow a transmission, or knock an A-arm off, or anything can happen.
Yeah,
it's rough country out here.
It shouldn't prevent you from doing it by yourself, but there's something to be said for having a partner, especially the hunting side, man. I could think about that. Like, I don't know many people anymore that literally hunt alone, and for a couple reasons. One, that meat gets heavy. We're getting older. Yep. If there is something that if there is an incident or an accident or something, you have somebody that there to collaborate with and say, hey, you stay here and I'll go get help, or hey, where the hell are we? Help me pick the side of this buggy up. Something else to help that situation. So I don't recall last time I've hunted alone, simply for the fact that I want to share the experience with somebody, and it is a safety thing. At some point, it becomes a safety thing to have help with you.
Yeah, and as we wrap up, I want you to tell folks where they can find you and about your shooting classes and everything that you're involved in. I've shared a story out of my life talking about hunting. It's something I've done my whole life. I don't apologize for it. I'm proud of it. I've been doing it since I was a kid. Man and women have been hunting since the dawn of time. Why stop now? If you don't like it, if you didn't like the story, maybe you turned it off, but I don't need you to send me an email or jump on my Instagram account and send me a bunch of hate, because
there is a thing called delete button.
Yeah, you do you. I'm doing me. I'm just sharing a story of one of the best times I've ever had in my life. I want to thank Jim Erwin for joining me here on the show today. We've been wanting to talk together, want to go shooting together and riding together. But what do you got coming up next, just as far as teaching your classes and anything else that you'd like to talk about?
Well, first of all, thanks for sharing that story, Steve, because I've talked before about that, and that was actually something you and I talked about, where you were saying, I don't know if I want to share that side of me in my story, because there is a lot of haters out there. So good on you for standing your ground and sharing a story that I guarantee a majority of your followers are going to dig. I know I did. Thanks for having me on that. You can find me at on Instagram at Jim the Kraken 1. That's the number 1. On Facebook, it's the same thing, Jim the Kraken 1, and my website is Kraken Approved. That's a whole nother story getting into how I got that call sign, but Kraken Approved, Kraken approved.com. Got the training tab on there where I'm doing my pistol, carbine, and long range classes. Next one's actually going to be in Bakersfield, January 4th and 5th, down there at 5 Dogs Training. Probably going to throw a CCW class together here pretty soon, but I love to shoot, love to teach, and share what I've learned over the past 30 years. And if you're interested in that kind of stuff, give me a shout and I'll help you out.
All right, everybody, give me the go-home cue. It's time to wrap up this podcast and ride off in the sunset. Before I do that, I want to thank my buddy Jim Erwin, the Kraken, for coming over and shooting the breeze with me, talking about hunting and shooting and jumping out of helicopters and airplanes. Badass dude and super knowledgeable at what he does. If you can catch one of his shooting lessons or some of his training sessions he also does CCW stuff. You can find no finer human being than Jim the Kraken Erwin. Enjoy it, Jim, and I'll see you next time I get back here to Nevada. If you want to reach me here on the podcast, send an email to questions@steveaustonshow.com. Hey, man, I'm proud to announce that Broken Skull IPA from El Segundo Brewing Company and myself will be hitting the shelves in the Bay Area and Sacramento this week, so be on the lookout. Go to the El Segundo Brewing Company interactive website and check out where you can buy Broken Skull IPA at a location near you. This week, coming to the Bay Area and Sacramento area, and also still hitting the East Coast, New Jersey, New York, and Boston, Massachusetts area. Check the interactive map. And for 2020, we're looking at coming to 6 or 8 more states. The beer has been a tremendous success, and I thank you very much for all of your support that you've shown us. Again, check out the website, elsegundobrewing.com, to find out where we're at, so you can check out the best IPA in America, and that's the bottom line. Hey, man, Christmas is just a few days away. King of Attitude shirts are available at Pro Wrestling Tees store and also Broken Skull Ranch apparel. ProWrestlingTees.com/Steve Austin for those shirts. What a great stocking stuffer. If you're looking to either get the cold steel Broken Skull knife or the working man's knife, go to my Amazon store, Amazon.com/shop/Steve Austin. They got the best price on both knives. I want to say one more special thank you to all the fine sponsors of the Steve Austin Show, especially Geico and BetOnline.ag. That's how I'm able to do this podcast for you twice a week for free. I also want to take a moment as we wrap up 2019 to say thank you to all the sponsors I've had this past year for keeping the Steve Austin Show free and in your earbuds every week without fail. You guys are badass. Please support our sponsors because they support us. If you need more info, check out the show description to this episode for details. Folks, if you find me out in the woods, I'll proudly be riding a Kawasaki, and that's the bottom line. Hey, I know that everybody out there is not a hunter or you're not into hunting. I am. It's what I do. Save the hate, save the emails. Don't waste your time or mine because I won't read them. Folks, until next time, my name is Steve Austin, and I will catch your ass down the road.
This has been a Podcast One production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.